What if your kindness is the very thing holding you back? You've been respectful, generous, and honest, yet you're overlooked, disrespected, even used. The truth? This world doesn't reward purity. It rewards perception, strategy, and timing. Machiavelli didn't teach cruelty, he taught awareness. And today, we'll reveal how to protect your goodness without being naive. If you've ever felt invisible despite doing everything right, this might explain why. Most people lose not because they're weak, but because they don't know how power works. You're about to learn, and once you do, there's no going back.
The dangerous illusion of being too good. Some people think that being kind is enough to win respect. They give, they serve, they sacrifice, expecting life to eventually notice. But the world doesn't operate on fairness. It operates on perception. And if you seem too soft, too available, too nice, people stop listening. There's a hidden trap in being too good. You're praised for it, but only until your boundaries become invisible. Then that same goodness is used against you. Suddenly, kindness looks like weakness, and weakness invites control. That's not just psychology, it's survival instinct. Think about your own life. Ever said yes when you wanted to say no? Ever gave more than you had just to keep the peace? That's not kindness, that's self-erasure. And people around you, they notice. Even if they never say it out loud, they treat you based on it. Machiavelli understood something brutal. People follow strength, not intention. A generous heart without strategy becomes a target. To truly lead, your kindness must be backed by power, quiet, calculated, and firm. Anything less, and you'll find yourself replaced by someone louder, colder, and more strategic. It's not about becoming harsh. It's about becoming wise, knowing when to give and when to hold, when to speak up and when to let silence build weight. People respect those who respect themselves first, and self-respect begins with limits. If you always make yourself small, people will stop noticing you altogether. Your energy becomes wallpaper, present, but easy to ignore. But when you carry yourself with clarity and self-command, something shifts. You don't need to beg for attention. You become impossible to ignore. Here's something to try. Pick one area where you've been overly available. Maybe at work, in your family, or friendships. Pull back just slightly. Watch how people react. You'll be surprised at how your absence can speak louder than your presence ever did. That shift in energy, that's influence. And the moment you taste it, you'll start to question every moment you let the world walk over your intentions. But this is only the beginning, because behind every strong presence, there's a deeper game unfolding.
Perception is power, why image beats truth. In today's world, being good isn't enough. You have to look good. You may have the best intentions, deep values, strong character, but if you don't know how to project that strength, people won't see it. And in a world ruled by perception, being unseen is the same as being powerless. Machiavelli understood it centuries ago. Truth matters less than what people believe to be true. Power lies not only in who you are, but in how you're perceived. A brilliant mind without presence is ignored. A confident fool with flair is followed. That's the brutal logic of influence. Ever met someone who seemed incredibly secure, even when you knew they weren't? That's perception management. They speak with certainty, dress with intention, hold eye contact just long enough. These micro-signals trigger a subconscious response: trust, respect, even fear. Meanwhile, someone with actual skill but hesitant body language gets passed over. Why? Because people react to emotion, not facts. They don't research your resume, they feel your energy. And if you don't control the story, someone else will write it for you. So what do? First, learn to manage your presence. Speak slower, stand taller, use silence deliberately. Even your clothing, your posture, the way you enter a room, everything tells a story. Make sure it's one of power, not apology. Try this. At your next meeting or social event, don't explain yourself. Don't overshare. Just listen more than usual and speak with calm certainty. You'll see people start leaning in, curious. That's not luck. That's strategic perception in action. This isn't about faking who you are. It's about highlighting your power so others can't ignore it. Influence doesn't go to the most deserving. It goes to those who learn how to control their reflection in other people's minds. And once you realize that truth alone doesn't win the game, you'll start asking deeper questions, like what other silent forces are shaping how people treat you, and how can you master them before they master you?
Silence is a weapon, the hidden power of saying less. Most people underestimate silence. They rush to fill it, explain themselves, defend their views. But silence, when used with intent, is a weapon. It creates mystery, control, and authority. In a world addicted to noise, the one who speaks less is instantly more powerful. Think of the last time you overshared. Maybe you opened up to someone who later used your words against you. Or maybe you explained yourself to someone who didn't even ask. That's how power leaks out, through unnecessary exposure. Silence protects. It shields your intentions. Machiavelli warned, never reveal your full hand, not out of deceit, but out of self-preservation. A person who speaks too much is easy to read, easy to manipulate. But when you speak only when needed, people lean in. They wonder what you're thinking. They start to fear your next move. Even in casual conversation, observe how silence works. The one who pauses before speaking seems more thoughtful. The one who listens longer appears wiser. And the one who resists the urge to respond emotionally, that person controls the room. Here's a strategy. The next time you're asked a direct question, wait 3 seconds before answering. Let the silence stretch. Notice how the other person shifts. That pause doesn't make you weak, it makes you deliberate. It rewires how they perceive your intelligence and authority. Powerful people aren't loud, they're composed. They speak when the moment adds value. And because they speak less, every word carries more weight. Think of leaders like Marcus Aurelius, or even modern CEOs. They speak rarely, but when they do, people listen.
The strategic art of being unpredictable. Predictability is comfortable, but it's also dangerous. If people can anticipate your next move, they can control your outcome. That's why Machiavelli emphasized unpredictability as a form of psychological warfare. The moment others can read you like a book, they stop respecting the cover.
Humans crave patterns. We trust what's familiar. But if your actions always follow the same rhythm, you become boring. And boring people aren't respected, they're used. The predictable friend always says yes. The predictable employee never negotiates. Predictability breeds submission. Think about chess. A player who always opens the same way is easy to beat. But the unpredictable opponent, they're terrifying. You can't plan against chaos. That's the advantage of mystery. It forces your rivals to hesitate, and hesitation creates space for power to grow. In life, this means breaking your own routine, especially when others expect you to stay the same. Speak up when they think you'll stay silent. Disagree when you've always agreed. Set a boundary no one saw coming. These subtle shifts signal, I'm not who you assumed. Even in relationships, unpredictability commands attention, not as a game, but as a strategy. The moment someone realizes you're not afraid to walk away or change direction, they step more carefully. That's not manipulation, that's reclaiming control of your narrative. Try this. Take one habit people associate with you and interrupt it. If you're always available, disappear for a day. If you're always agreeable, challenge something. Watch how quickly the room shifts. That moment of unpredictability forces people to recalibrate around you. Machiavelli knew that power wasn't just about dominance, it was about surprise. When your enemies don't know what to expect, they lose footing. And when you're no longer easy to define, people stop putting you in small boxes. They start making room for your authority. And unpredictability is just the start, because once you learn to break expectations, you unlock something deeper, the ability to control attention and eventually redefine the entire game.
Emotional control, the most underestimated power. In a world of constant provocation, the one who stays calm holds the real power. Losing your temper might feel like strength in the moment, but it only exposes your weaknesses. The louder you get, the easier you are to manipulate. Emotional control is silent dominance. Machiavelli understood that rulers who react impulsively invite chaos. The same applies to everyday life. When you let others dictate your emotional state, you give them the steering wheel. And people are quick to test your reactions, not out of malice, but instinct. Think about how often you've regretted a message sent in anger, or a decision made under stress. That's not leadership. That's emotional slavery. True influence doesn't come from shouting over others. It comes from being the calmest presence in the storm. Try this mental shift. When someone tries to provoke you, don't think they're attacking me. Think they're testing me. That reframe turns irritation into insight. You'll start seeing emotional games as opportunities to showcase your self-mastery, not your sensitivity. In a heated conversation, silence can be more powerful than any comeback. A slow breath, a pause, a steady tone. These are weapons most people forget exist. Practice them in small interactions. Over time, they'll form an invisible armor others will sense but not understand. Emotional control doesn't mean coldness. It means not giving the enemy your blueprint. It's okay to feel deeply, but those feelings are for you, not for public display. Let others guess what you're thinking. Let them wonder why you're not reacting. That mystery builds respect. You'll notice a shift. People start treating you like someone who can't be rattled. They come to you for direction, not drama. Because in a chaotic world,
Calm is rare, and what's rare becomes valuable. That's how influence grows, quietly, consistently, strategically. And once you master emotional control, you're ready to unlock the next layer of invisible power. A kind of power that doesn't scream, but moves entire rooms without saying a word.
The power of strategic absence. Scarcity commands respect. Always being available feels generous, but it quietly erodes your value. When people can access you at any time, they begin to take you for granted. Strategic absence isn't about arrogance. It's about creating distance that builds desire, curiosity, and respect. Machiavelli would never advise constant presence. He knew that the more often a ruler appeared, the less impact he had. The same applies in life. Overexposure dilutes influence. When you're always there, you're easily ignored. When you're rare, you're remembered. Think of your attention as currency. If you give it to everyone all the time, it loses its worth. But when you withdraw with purpose, suddenly people notice. They wonder why you pulled back. They question what changed. That vacuum creates influence. Practical tip? Delay responses. Don't always reply immediately. Skip a few non-essential events. Watch how people start chasing your time instead of assuming it. This isn't manipulation. It's a recalibration of how others measure your presence. Think of celebrities. Why do their rare appearances matter so much? Because mystery creates value. You don't need fame to apply this principle. Just practice intentional absence, especially from spaces where you're being overlooked or overused. Even in friendships or work, distance resets perception. It gives people time to realize what they've been missing. When you return, you come back with more weight, more presence. You're no longer just available, you're desired. Absence also gives you perspective. When you step back, you see who reaches out and who disappears. That's real intelligence, observing who values your energy versus who consumes it without reciprocity. It's leadership through selective presence. And as you master the art of stepping back, you begin to unlock another layer of power, one rooted not in distance alone, but in how that distance changes the emotional dynamics around you.
Information is power, the discipline of strategic silence. Most people think speaking more proves intelligence, but the wise know silence often says more. Every time you speak, you reveal a piece of your mind, your strategy, your emotions. And in a world hungry for advantage, the one who speaks least is often the most dangerous. Machiavelli taught that a leader must conceal intentions, not out of malice, but out of survival. Transparency is romantic, but it's rarely rewarded. Share everything, and people will use it against you. Speak less, and they'll fear what you're thinking. You've probably experienced this. You overshare with someone only to feel exposed later. That's not connection, that's loss of control. Instead, practice revealing only what strengthens your position. Keep the rest locked away, as if guarding a kingdom. In negotiations, the quiet person holds power. Why? Because silence makes others uncomfortable. They rush to fill it, often revealing too much. You learn more by listening than talking. A well-timed pause can shift the balance of an entire conversation. Want a real-world strategy? In your next meeting or conflict, say 30% less than you normally would. Just observe. You'll be amazed how quickly people project their thoughts onto your silence. That projection becomes a weapon. You didn't lie, but they revealed themselves. Being mysterious isn't about acting cold. It's about having layers. The moment people feel they fully get you, they stop paying attention. But when they don't know your full story, they lean in closer. Mystery creates influence. Silence amplifies power. Even socially, strategic silence raises your value. You don't have to comment on everything. In fact, when you choose your words carefully, each one lands with more weight. People start listening more attentively, not because you speak often, but because you don't. And once you master the discipline of silence, you're ready for a higher tier of influence, one that doesn't just withhold information, but begins to shape perception itself in your favor.
The weapon of unpredictability. Be the storm they can't forecast. Predictability makes people feel safe, but it also makes you vulnerable. If others can predict your every move, they can prepare for it, counter it, or manipulate it. True power begins when you become a variable, someone no one can quite figure out. Machiavelli understood this deeply. A ruler who is too consistent becomes easy to corner, but one who can shift, adapt, surprise, he keeps opponents on edge. Unpredictability isn't chaos, it's strategy. It creates hesitation, and hesitation creates opportunity. You don't have to be erratic, just stop being too obvious. If you always say yes, say no. If you're expected to be passive, show your teeth once in a while. This isn't about rebellion, it's about reclaiming control over how others interact with you. Think of poker players. The best ones don't reveal patterns. They change their rhythm, bluff with confidence, and force others into discomfort. You can do the same in life. Change your tempo, hold back your reactions, act before you're asked. Be the anomaly. Here's a quick challenge. Next time someone tries to predict your response, do the opposite just once. Watch how quickly the dynamic shifts. People become cautious, more respectful. Suddenly, you're not someone they can read. You're someone they have to respect. Even in relationships, unpredictability works. If you're always emotionally available, occasionally pull back. If you're always funny, show depth. People value what keeps them on their toes. Predictability is comfort, but unpredictability creates presence. This doesn't mean abandoning who you are. It means expanding who you can be. When people can't define you, they watch more closely. They try harder to understand. And that attention, earned, not demanded, is a powerful form of influence.
Scarcity creates value. Make your presence a privilege. If you're always available, your presence becomes background noise. People stop appreciating what's constant. But the moment you become scarce, intentionally and strategically, they start to crave your energy. That's when your value multiplies. Machiavelli warned against excessive familiarity. The more people see you, the less they fear losing you. And when people assume you'll always be there, they stop working to earn your attention, your respect, and your time. Scarcity reverses that dynamic. Your time is a luxury, not a commodity. If you give it freely to everyone, it loses power. But if you manage it with discipline, showing up at moments of impact and retreating when needed, your presence will speak louder than your words ever could. Think of high-level consultants, artists, or mentors. They're not available on demand. And that's why they're respected. When they do appear, everyone listens. You don't need to be a celebrity to create this effect. Just start by saying no more often. Practical example: stop over-explaining. Delay responses. Be intentional with your availability. Instead of reacting instantly, let people wait. Let your presence be a reward, not an expectation. That pause often speaks louder than any message ever could. Even socially, the one who is slightly less accessible often holds more power. It's not about playing games. It's about protecting your energy and teaching others to respect your boundaries. Authority begins where overexposure ends. Scarcity builds mystique. Mystique builds anticipation. Anticipation builds influence. When you master this, your actions become events. People talk about your words long after you leave the room because they don't hear you often. But when they do, it matters. And when you've mastered the value of presence, it's time to sharpen your edge even more by ruling not only your image and availability, but the most volatile force of all, your emotions.
Emotional control, the silent engine of authority. Anyone can raise their voice, but very few can keep it steady when the world is shaking. Emotional control isn't about suppression, it's about sovereignty. When you command your own state, you command the room, the outcome, the narrative. Machiavelli believed no leader could govern others without first governing himself. The person who panics, reacts, or lashes out has already lost, not to their enemies, but to their own impulses. Emotional self-mastery is the cornerstone of enduring power. Imagine a heated argument. The one who stays calm, speaks slowly, listens deeply. That's the one who wins. People follow those who don't get rattled. They respect those who stay centered. Even in storms, they trust the steady hand at the helm. Controlling emotions doesn't mean becoming robotic. It means choosing your emotional expressions as weapons, not accidents. Smile when it disarms. Pause when it provokes. Show anger only when it serves your strategy, not your ego. Try this. Next time you feel irritated, don't react, observe. Step outside yourself and notice what's being triggered. That space between emotion and action is where your authority is born. Most never access it. Those who do lead. Emotional outbursts may feel powerful, but they leave wreckage and weaken your influence long term. People remember how you made them feel more than what you said. If you lose your temper, you lose control of the room. If you stay grounded, you own it. In business, relationships, leadership, emotional discipline is rare. That's why it commands such deep respect. When others feel safe in your presence, even under pressure, they grant you authority without needing to be told. And when you master that calm, that inner fire under control, you're finally ready to access the final principle, the one that transcends even the battlefield of strategy, the power of long-game thinking.
The final shift from being good to becoming untouchable. You've seen it all now, the lies behind blind kindness, the hidden traps of overexposure, the subtle tyranny of emotional weakness. You were taught that being good was enough, but the truth is, goodness alone is powerless in a world that rewards precision. Machiavelli didn't want you to become a tyrant. He wanted you to become free. Free from manipulation, free from emotional chaos, free from being everyone's doormat. He wanted you to step into self-rule, not by rejecting virtue, but by making it sharp. You can still be kind, but now with a sword behind your back. You can still serve, but only when it's strategic. You can love, but never at the cost of your self-respect. This is the difference between weakness disguised as virtue and virtue refined by fire. Let people wonder how you think. Let them question if they ever had you figured out. Show warmth, but only when it's your choice, not their expectation. Influence is quiet, deliberate, and felt strongest when it's least understood. Don't just survive this world, shape it. Play the long game. Say less. Withhold more. Move with timing. Appear with weight. Power isn't about being loud, it's about being undeniable. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be remembered. Now take one moment and ask yourself, which of these teachings are you already living, and which ones are you resisting? That resistance might be the very wall between your current self and the one who dominates the game in silence. If something in this hit you, if it shook the way you've been thinking, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Leave your impression below. There's always someone else out there, still playing nice, still being devoured, who needs this exact wake-up call. And if you're ready to dive even deeper into the raw truths of leadership, perception, and influence, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and watch the next video that's already waiting for you on screen or in the description. We're just getting started.